Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan, and today I'm reviewing some Marvel Phase 4 knockoff and custom minifigures. And with the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania just around the corner, I thought I'd also give my ranking for the MCU projects that came out in 2022. But first, the figures. I bought all these off of BrickPanToys.com, and if you need a refresher as to how to find these figures or how to buy them, you can check out my ultimate guide to knockoff figures right here. So how about a character that I constantly make fun of and claim is one of the worst MCU minifigures ever released is Taskmaster. I think this figure from XINH improves upon the body print, the leg print, the arm print, the hood print, the shield print, but somehow the face is worse. There's hardly any contrast in the purple and gray, so it makes the visor seem like it really kind of just blends into the face. It's pretty easy to be better than the worst MCU figure, but how about a character we've never seen before, a custom of Baron Zemo? This XINH figure is pretty much perfect for me. I'm very impressed with the contrast on the face, where the peach eyes stand out perfectly on the purple head. The line work might be a little bit thick for my liking, but other than that minor gripe, I think this figure is really good, and I hope that if LEGO ever makes a Baron Zemo figure, it's as good as this custom. Unfortunately, what wasn't as good was my least favorite MCU offering in 2022, that being She-Hulk. To me, this was a comedy that just wasn't funny at all. It was a series held together by cameos like Hulk, Wong, and Daredevil, which meant She-Hulk woefully underutilized Tatiana Maslany, an actress who's really funny. I also thought that She-Hulk had really poor story structure, with the massive fourth wall break really not having any build-up. I think the story should have been paced more like WandaVision, where the shenanigans and fourth wall breaks kind of slowly build up over time, or make the big fourth wall break your mid-season point as sort of a turning point on the story. Otherwise, you're left with a inoffensive, toothless, and teetering on bad show in my mind. She-Hulk is easily the worst of 2022 in my opinion. But all that said, how about the custom minifigure of She-Hulk? This figure from XINH does an okay job of translating She-Hulk to minifigure form. I think the outfit is phenomenal looking, the hair is a nice slight tinge of green to it, but the skin tone reads more like Shrek than She-Hulk. I think the Firestar Toys version of this character does a phenomenal job of nailing the color green. And if XINH went more for like a Gamora skin tone than this Shrek skin tone, this She-Hulk figure would have been much better in my opinion. Now, She-Hulk is a character I imagine we'll see in the LEGO Marvel CMF Wave 2, so here's hoping that version can knock the design out of the park. But how about everyone's favorite character from She-Hulk, Daredevil? This figure from XINH depicts Daredevil in his red and gold suit featured on She-Hulk, and this is a very well designed figure. My only gripes would be the level of contrast on the torso, where the blacks really don't stand out that much, and the peach is a little bit washed out on the face, but the mask is fantastic, the pops of gold on the arms and legs are great, and even the batons have printing on them. Take note, Black Widow minifigures, the batons have printing on them. This Daredevil custom is definitely a step up from the official LEGO Daredevil figure, although that one takes more inspiration from the comics, whereas this one is from the show. So with that in mind, how about a Daredevil custom closer to his appearance in his Netflix show? The all dark red look is fantastic on this figure, although the torso looks like someone took their thumb and smudged the printing as it was happening, because the entire thing lacks focus and clarity. Again, there's printing on the batons, and little bits of silver on the belt pop a little bit too much for me, but for a $1 custom, that is a darn good Daredevil. We have one more Matt Murdock left, and it's his red and black suit. Out of the 3 different versions, I think this one might be my favorite. The blacks are dark, the reds pop, the print is clean. My only gripe is the amount of line work on the boots, which kind of make the black seem a bit brighter. But other than that, I'm really happy with this figure. While all 3 Daredevils are solid figures, I think this one might be Hall of Fame worthy. I am very glad to see my off-brand Hall of Fame slowly expanding over the years, and if you want me to do a ranking video of all my Hall of Fame figures, let me know in the comment section down below. Now back to the MCU ranking for number 7, Ms. Marvel. This felt like 2 shows slammed into one season. A quirky teen comedy with great visual flair and style, and an ABC sci-fi drama too half-baked even for the worst seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The villains are painfully underdeveloped, unoriginal, but just plain boring. The time travel plot felt more like a mandate to tie into Kang than a central element of Kamala's story. Now, actress Iman Vellani is a delight, and she actually shines better in the Disney cruise experience with Ant-Man than her own show. The originality and visual flair and camera work in the first 2 and final episodes are what saved this show. Also, pretty solid cliffhanger. Here's hoping the Marvels is good, and here's hoping this custom of Miss Marvel is even better. This XINH figure is very darn good. The texturing on the torso is phenomenal, the shoe print is great, the purple blast hands are fantastic, the face also good. My only major gripe would be, why not use the mid-sized legs? It would have been perfect for this Kamala Khan figure. Other than that though, really nice job from XINH, but how about another Young Avenger? How about Kate Bishop? Another character I imagine we'll see in the Marvel CMF series, and if this figure from XINH is any indication, I'll be a very happy camper. The torso print is darn near perfect. I love the color scheme, the design, and the contrast levels. My only major complaint is the face, where the proportions are a little bit off and don't really look like Kate Bishop. Also, the custom dog print of Lucky with his one eye closed is a really sweet touch here. So while we're on the show Hawkeye, how about Hawkeye? A character long overdue for an upgrade, as we haven't seen a new Clint Barton figure since 2019. However, I do hope LEGO has a bit of a better design than this one. I think the giant purple heart on the torso is a bit too distracting as a design element, and the rest is just kind of black and murky. The face design is strange looking, with the mouth and eyes being way too low on the head. Truthfully, I think these designers did a much better job with Kate than they did with Clint. But how about Yelena Belova? This figure from XINH tries to do too much with a black suited figure. The only elements of line work on the legs are barely visible, but the torso does look quite nice. The arms are way too busy, with the pops of red being almost invisible. The face mask is lacking a bit of contrast as well, with the green eyes kind of not popping as much as they should. So here's hoping this figure of Echo is a bit better. For better or for worse, if you didn't tell me this was Echo, and you asked me what Marvel character I thought this figure was, I would have told you Melinda May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's not a ton that makes this character stand out as Echo and Echo only, and here's hoping her upcoming show gives her enough development to make her instantly recognizable as a Marvel character. One last figure from Hawkeye, and it's the big guy, Wilson Fisk, Kingpin. The choice to make him a big fig is an admirable one, although I think this makes him a little bit too big. He's almost the relative size of the Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse, rather than Hawkeye. I think using a Hagrid-sized figure might have been a better choice here than a big fig, but for what we got, it's okay. The print work on the torso is nice. I like the flower shirt design. The head is rather well done. The arm printing is a bit too much for my opinion, and the lack of leg printing really makes it feel like he's in a white jumpsuit rather than a suit and pants. I'm not sure we'll ever see a Marvel Kingpin minifigure, but if we do, I think we can do a little bit better than this. Back to my MCU ranking, and at number 6 we have Thor: Love and Thunder. This was another comedy with very few laugh-out-loud moments. It really lacked the deftness of Ragnarok to balance between serious and humorous moments. This is another MCU project that woefully underutilizes one of the main actors, in this case Christian Bale. The film tries to do too much and couldn't give either main story, Gore the God Butcher or the Mighty Thor, its due. I think it might be time to find a new vision for Thor, as the Taika Waititi humor is already wearing a little bit too thin. Now, I already reviewed a lot of Thor: Love and Thunder knockoffs, and you can watch that review right here. So coming in at number 5 on my 2022 MCU list is Moon Knight. This was a slow burn story for better or worse, but the performances from Oscar Isaac, Ethan Hawke, and F. Murray Abraham kept me engaged through the slower beginning. The dive into Egypt mythology was a nice touch, as was the character work in episode 5, and while the show did stay the course of the MCU formula, episode 1 setup, episode 2 and 3 are filler, 4 is the big twist, 5 is the character deep dive, and 6 is the big bad finale. Moon Knight had enough new and slick elements to make for an enjoyable show. Now, I actually have 2 sets of Moon Knight figures to review, one from Coriat and one from WM Blocks. I actually already reviewed the figures from XINH a while ago. So we'll dive into WM Blocks and start off with their Moon Knight figure. The amount of line work printing on the torso, legs, arms, face is just very overwhelming and kind of lacks a little bit of balance and contrast. There isn't a single bit of black printing on this figure at all. It's all grays, whites, and golds. While the printing on the cape cowl piece is quite nice, I'm just not a fan of the hard plastic cape. The 2 custom golden weapon pieces are a nice touch, but overall, if you took this figure and put it like 1.5 feet away from your face, you'd be hard to read any of the detail on it. It's a major problem I've seen with a lot of custom Moon Knight figures, but here's hoping that WM's Mr. Knight figure solves that problem. And yes, it does. This figure is very easy to read from a distance, but if you look up close, there actually is patterning on the suit and legs, which is a great touch. The face looks pretty simple, but it's effective and easy to read overall. There's some really great design work on this. My only gripe is the batons have no printing on them, and thanks to the Daredevil figures, I now expect all customs that cost $1 to have printing on the batons. Either way, this is a pretty solid figure, definitely better in my opinion than Moon Knight. But how about Coriat? How will their custom stack up? We'll start off with their Moon Knight. Unfortunately, this figure falls into the same pitfalls as the WM figure, in that there's so much line work on the torso and legs that it just becomes muddy and hard to read. Granted, all the black lines are very clean, there's just so many of them. If I'm comparing the WM and Coriat figures, I don't think either of them are that good. For the best Moon Knight custom, check out the Firestar Toys version. It's very, very good. But how about Coriat's version of Mr. Knight? This Mr. Knight figure is, again, fantastic. I love the design of the torso, the printing on it, the amount of detail on both the legs and arms are great, and I really, really like the headpiece added to this figure to give him that mask look. It makes the figure feel wholly complete, and I'm very happy with it. Definitely a little bit better in my opinion than the WM Blocks Mr. Knight. But the Coriat brand has one more Moon Knight figure in its collection, and it's Khonshu. This is the level of line work and detailing that should have been on the Moon Knight figure. There's enough to make it look busy, but not too much to overwhelm your eye. I really believe it comes down to the thickness of the bandages that these custom designers put on their figures. If it's too thin, it becomes very overwhelming. If they're too thick, it becomes too boring. If it's just right, you get that perfect balance of busy design work, but readable overall. And this Khonshu figure, I think, nails it. The reuse of what I believe is a Chima headpiece is a nice touch, and this custom staff is fantastic. Now, I actually have one more custom figure from Moon Knight, and it's the Scarlet Scarab from XINH. While the design work on the torso and legs are fantastic, I think the quality of the print lets this figure down, as it feels like it was smudged during printing. The face print is also way too low on the head, but the wings, hair, and swords are quite nice. I'm not sure how many characters from Moon Knight we'll get in the Marvel CMF Wave 2, probably Moon Knight, maybe Mr. Knight, so you get both Mark and Steven, but here's hoping they're a little bit better than we have so far from the customs. Except, again, for Firestar Toys, those guys have fantastic customs. They just cost more than $1 per figure. Jumping back into my MCU ranking, coming in at number 4 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's a non-stop, stylistic romp with twists, turns, and very little time to breathe or even think. Benedict Cumberbatch is a great linchpin for the film, playing his own variants really well. Elizabeth Olsen's villainous run as Wanda is wonderful, even if the motivations aren't 100% aligned with her state post-WandaVision. The Illuminati cameos are a fun setup for an action set piece, even if they're short-lived. The magic is expanded past shields and daggers, with Strange pulling off some very creative spells. And while the multiverse was initially a letdown, I think the film merely serves as its introduction. Perhaps if you think of this film more so as Doctor Strange and the Curse of the Darkhold, you might have a better time watching it. I already reviewed a bunch of Multiverse of Madness knockoffs and custom figures, and you can watch that review right here. So coming in at number 3 is Werewolf by Night. The first Marvel special takes full advantage of the medium by delivering a small-scale, engaging romp through a horrific maze. The stories, visuals, effects, style, everything was so well crafted and elevated in the special. In the best way, without the Marvel logo and the nod to the Avengers at the start, this feels wholly separate from and unique within the MCU. Werewolf by Night got me very excited for the future of MCU horror, including Blade, and here's hoping they dive into other subcategories of horror, like the 1940s. But how about a horror character that hasn't appeared in a single Marvel property yet, but everybody mentions every single time? It's Mephisto. This custom Mephisto from XINH is okay, but just okay. There's not a lot of printing on the torso or legs, but what is there is quite nice. The face kind of feels more like it comes from an original LEGO theme than Marvel, and the printing's a little bit low on the head to begin with. Alright, time for the top 2. At runner-up, it's the Guardians Holiday Special. This is sweet, funny, irreverent, and in the same way that Werewolf by Night takes influence from horror films, this is a holiday special through and throughout. The animated portions are spot on, the songs are great, the sweet moments, the funny moments, all are consistent within the vision of James Gunn. Mantis and Drax taking the spotlight is a joy, and seeing this more playful, aggressive, and confident Mantis is really fun. This special is a charming, cheesy Christmas with some characters we'll probably have to say goodbye to in Volume 3, so if this is sort of the last funny hurrah, it's a great note to go out on before the bittersweet end. And that leaves me with my favorite MCU output from 2022. At number 1, it's Wakanda Forever. Talk about overcoming every obstacle life throws at you. Having to top a phenomena of a first film, having to stay faithful yet also expand one of the greatest fictional worlds of modern cinema, having to create another fictional world and society that's just as intriguing, and having to do all of that after the passing of your main actor. The fact this movie is good is an achievement to me. The fact that it's this good is just incredible. Talokan might not be as visually fantastical, but the culture within the civilization is deep, impactful, and a perfect foil to Wakanda. Namor is emotional, relatable, intimidating, and the perfect villain for the film. Really glad he's still alive in the MCU for future adventures. The entire cast brings their A game, probably working through some real grief after the death of Chadwick Boseman, and the Angela Bassett Academy Award nomination is well deserved. So with that, let's finish off this knockoff and custom showcase with some figures from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now these figures come from CR, a brand I've never interacted with before, and just look at how they're packaged. This metal case looks fantastic with the Black Panther printing on it. The set comes with 4 figures, and we'll start with the purple accented one. These Black Panther figures really go above and beyond with print work. Legs have printing, arms have printing, the head has printing. All of it looks really wonderful, very detailed. There's even claw printing on the hands and feet. That's just going above and beyond. The same goes with the traditional Black Panther figure without any color accents. Even the silver looks quite nice. Although this one is a bit muted overall because there's no pops of contrast or white to really make all the line work stand out. It's really only great when the light hits it just right. The eyes are also a little bit low on the head, but this figure is still design-wise leaps and bounds above any official Black Panther minifigure. The third figure, I believe, is a King T'Chaka figure, what we've never seen before in LEGO form. This is a custom based on his appearance at the beginning of Black Panther, and it looks phenomenal, perfectly blending the ceremonial African elements with the high-tech Wakandan suit. Just fantastic all around. I love the pops of green and purple on the figure. And finally, the golden Jaguar figure with the gold elements all around. This just looks really complicated, but still pretty easy to read on the eyes. Really great balance here, and I always love how the gold looks on these Black Panther suits. If the official Black Panther figures even came close to the amount of detail that these figures have, I'd be a happy camper. Even just adding leg printing makes so much of a difference, but adding claws, arms, sides of legs, back. If the CR brand is consistently as good as these Black Panther figures, I might need to check them out. Here's hoping 2023 gives us some great Marvel minifigures, either from LEGO or from some knockoff and custom sellers. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.